Welcome to the Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, our Attorney General Nick Brown is suing the Trump administration to keep Homeless Inc. funded. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
A new investigation found that Minnesota taxpayer dollars were ending up in the hands of al-Shabaab terrorists that's linked to Al-Qaeda. How is this happening? Chris Rufo of the Manhattan Institute found a web of fraud involving Minnesota's Medicaid Housing Stabilization Services Program, Feeding Our Future, and other organizations. They noted that in many cases, members of Minnesota's Somali community were perpetrators of fraud. They added that the federal counterterrorism sources confirmed that millions of dollars in stolen funds were sent back to Somalia, which is how al-Shabaab got the cash. So where'd all the money go? It turns out the Somali fraud ring sent money transfers from Minnesota to Somalia, and approximately 40% of households in Somalia got remittances from abroad. They state that in the report in 2023, the Somali diaspora sent $1.7 billion with a B dollars to the country, which was higher than the Somali government's budget that same year. They also discovered the funds were being funneled to al-Shabaab, an al-Qaeda-linked terror organization. Multiple law enforcement sources told Chris Rufo that Minnesota Somalia community sent millions of dollars through a network of money traders known as hawalas that wound up in the hands of the terror group. Glenn Kearns, a retired Seattle Police Department detective who spent 14 years on a federal joint terrorism task force, told Rufo that the Somalis ran a complex money network and were routing cash on commercial flights from the Seattle airport. That means SeaTac, you guys know, right? To the Hawala networks in Somalia. He said, we had sources going to the Hawalas to send money. I went down to Minnesota, pulled all of their records, and all these Somalis were sending out money or on DHS benefits. The largest funder of al-Shabaab terrorists was the Minnesota taxpayer. Quote, every scrap of economic activity in the Twin Cities, in America, throughout Western Europe, anywhere Somalians are concentrated, every cent that is sent back to Somalia benefits al-Shabaab in some way. The HSS program was launched with the goal of helping those in need, but turned into a fraud scheme. The program was initially estimated to cost $2.6 million, but in its first year it paid out more than $21 million in claims. The costs only grew from there, with the program paying out $61 million in claims in the first 6 months of 2025. On August 1st, Minnesota's Department of Human Services ended the program after finding that payments to 77 housing stabilization providers were terminated over credible allegations of fraud. Do you realize what was happening here? They were defrauding multiple organizations and sending that money back to terrorist groups. So, for example, they lied and said all these kids had autism so they could get money for autism benefits. They lied and said all these kids were starving so they could get money from their homeless industrial complex. They lied and said all these people were homeless so they could get money from their homeless industrial complex. They lied and said people had addiction problems so they could get money from the addiction providers. They lied and said they needed child care when they didn't. And they defrauded the child care assistants. They defrauded SNAP programs. All of this. And the money was laundered through al-Shabaab and sent to Somalia. By the way, this isn't just Chris Rufo, because I know some of our Democrat friends out there will go, well, he's a conservative activist. This is definitely partisan. It's racist. Yeah? Here's ABC. ABC News. They're not my little black book of the right-wing media conspiracy.
Mental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP. The program distributes nearly $70 million in benefits each month in Minnesota alone. Well, 5 Investigates has uncovered audits that show the state did not perform required security checks of the computer system that determines who is eligible to receive this money. It is a discovery that has SNAP recipients like Mateo Halbesleben worried about the safety of his personal data.
Okay, so that's ABC News saying you're having these problems too. This gets so much worse. Billions of dollars going to a terrorist organization that were coming from the U.S. government, and you have the left claiming we don't need Doge. You have the left claiming there's no waste, there's no fraud, there's no abuse in entitlement programs. You know, we have a massive Somalian community here in Seattle. Do you think the same thing's happening here? Why wouldn't it be? The police detective that they are quoting in this story, and I'm going to reach out to Chris Rufo, and I'm going to ask him to put me in touch with that police detective. How much of it is happening here, too? Defrauding Homeless Inc. Billions of dollars spent. Billions of dollars. And the problem only gets worse around here? How is that? Now, Ilhan Omar is saying, oh, no. I don't know what you're talking about. Somalians are essential to America.
Somalis are not terrorizing this nation. We are helping it thrive. Somalis have always seen themselves as a fabric of this nation. So not only are we not going anywhere, we are not going to allow anybody to make us feel less Minnesotan or less American.
She seems more mad that the Somali community is being called out than what they were accused of. A lot of you know I'm an Orthodox Jew. I take the Israel stuff very seriously. I take the Jewish stuff very seriously. Sometimes you guys say a little too seriously. There's a guy named Jonathan Pollard. Have you ever heard the name Jonathan Pollard? Jonathan Pollard is a traitor. He was busted in 1985 for spying on America. Jonathan Pollard spied on America. He tried selling those secrets to multiple countries and then ended up selling some of it to Israel. When we were kids, they would take us, some people would take us to these rallies for Jonathan Pollard. And it was before the internet. We didn't know what we were doing. It's just an excuse to get out of school. Yeah, free Jonathan Pollard because he's Jewish. And we want to go out there and protest because he shouldn't be in jail. We didn't know what he did. He's a traitor. He sold secrets to another country, tried to sell them to a whole lot more. And I felt used. I felt taken advantage of when I found that out. Now, you want to make the argument that Jonathan Pollard got sentences longer than some Russian spies, than some terrorists? Yeah, you could say that. But he was recently released from prison under the Obama administration, and now he's living in Israel. Any Jew that I know thinks he is a pariah and wants nothing to do with him. He sold out America. He is a traitor to this country. I had a person come up to me once, and they said, Ari, did you listen to Jonathan Pollard's podcast? I said, no way in hell. And they said, but he says such interesting things. I go, he is a traitor to this country. I don't care what the hell he has to say. He is a traitor. And what upsets me more is he wears one of these things on his head. He wears one of these yarmulkes on his head. There's a thing we have called Chilul Hashem, which means disgracing the name of God. And for me, the guy is a walking, talking Chilul Hashem, a walking, talking disgrace. Mike Huckabee met with him last week in Israel. Nobody really knows why. I don't know what the upside is. I love Mike Huckabee. Why are you meeting with this guy? Do you hear the rage in my voice? When people in the Jewish world do something wrong, it upsets me as an American. It upsets me as a Jew. And I get furious about this because you're making all of us look bad with your stupidity. You're making all of us look bad with you being a traitor to the U.S. That should be the reaction that Ilhan Omar is having. How dare you make Somalians look bad? Her speech should have been, I'm ashamed by this. We're going to have a full investigation because as the representative of Minnesota, I want to make sure Minnesotan taxpayer money goes to the taxpayers, not a terrorist organization. Instead, she's defending it. This is a woman who has said Somalia first on multiple occasions. She seems more mad that people busted the fraud than that the fraud occurred, which is beyond insane. Now, by the way, the Somali community, not part of the fabric of the United States. Sorry, guys. They basically came here en masse in the 1990s. By then, the country was pretty much set up. But trying to claim they're part of the fabric of the United States, I don't remember any Somalians being there for the signing of the Declaration of Independence. I just don't. You want to know how long this kind of stuff has been going on for? This is a report from 2001.
At Cedar and Riverside, 2 businesses shut down, their assets seized, and a suspect hauled away. That suspect may be Garad Jama, the only Twin Cities individual targeted by customs agents in the raid. Jama's last known address, this apartment complex at 2100 Bloomington Avenue South in Minneapolis. A block away from the first raid, 2 more businesses raided and shut down. At both locations, a steady stream of Somali refugees hoping to wire money home to their families turned away.
Business is shut down right now.
And at both locations, boxes of material seized, including a safe and a filing cabinet. Customs agents believe all 4 businesses are involved in funneling money to Osama bin Laden's al-Qaeda terrorist network. Somali refugees who use the wire services insist they are honest businesses.
They are not helping terrorism people. They are doing just their own business. The business are free, whatever they do. But it's not the kind of that one starting to give to the enemies or the terrorism people.
They are also afraid that having fled civil war in their homeland, they will now be seen as an enemy in their adopted land.
As a Somalian, we send money our families in back home, but we don't support terrorists, or we're not behind terrorists, or we don't support them, or we don't send money about them at all.
It looks like that's exactly what was going on. Are there Somalians in this country? Are there Somalians in the city that are hardworking, that are patriotic Americans? I'm sure that there are. But then where are they standing up to call out this behavior and say it's wrong? Where are the leaders of the Somalian community standing up and saying this is wrong? Because I know the amount of rabbis that stood up and said, Jonathan Pollard is not a hero. Jonathan Pollard is a Chil Hashem. Jonathan Pollard is a traitor to our home, the United States of America. Instead, you've got Ilhan Omar out there, seems more upset they got caught than what was actually going on, that they were defrauding her area. This is back from Fox News in 2011.
A new, stunning report from the City Journal showing a massive fraud scheme in Minnesota. You have to hear about this. It involves false autism claims, the Somali community, and connections to a terror group. Let's explain over at The Wall. Now, it all revolves around autism and HSS program. That is Minnesota's Medicaid Housing Stabilization Services. Now, this was created to help seniors, addicts, and others find housing. But the criteria to enter this program was incredibly loose and therefore easy to take advantage of. It's led to fraud and costs absolutely exploding. Just 5 years ago, in 2020, costs for this program were $2.6 million. 4 years later, by 2024, cost had been over $100 million, 104. Through the first 6 months of this year, costs are at $61 million, meaning if you double that over the entirety of the year, you're looking at $122 million. In 5 years, from $2 million to $122 million. Now, why? 6 people are accused of defrauding HSS, and they're members of the Somali community. But this just gets worse if we take a look at Minnesota's federally funded autism program. Now, several people, and this is an example, a woman in the Somali community, are co-conspirators, and they're accused of recruiting kids for autism therapy. They brought in families, had them convinced to get their kids diagnosed as autistic. In fact, these families ultimately ended up having various social services bid for their children, competing with the number and size of check that they would get. It didn't matter if the kids had autism. And what happened? Autism claims to Medicaid surged. In 2018, $3 million. By 2023, listen here, from $3 million to $400 million. autism providers jumped from 41 to 328 in 5 years. Now, City Journal reports that the Somali fraud rings send a lot of money back to Somalia. 40% of households in Somalia get remittances from abroad. That totals $1.7 billion. That is more than the entire budget of the Somali government. Money being sent abroad, from abroad, back to Somalia. Where is that money going? Take a look at this. Most alarmingly, a lot of that money is funneled through money traders, and in the end, ends up in the hands of al-Qaeda-linked Islamic terror group Al-Shabaab.
Now, this is horrifying that this fraud was so widespread, going on for so long. I apologize. That wasn't Fox from 2011. That was Fox from 2 days ago. So you had this going on for years and years and years, and nobody noticed. And nobody noticed. It took Chris Rufo exposing this. Where are all the safeguards? Chris Rufo lives out here. This has been going on literally for decades. And nobody knew about this? So now Lisa Dumoth, who is the House Speaker of Minnesota, says she has asked the U.S. Department of Justice to immediately launch an investigation into the reported allegations that Minnesota tax dollars have been funneled to the Al-Shabaab terrorist organization in Somalia. Great. Where were you guys beforehand? By the way, she's a Republican. Where have you guys been this whole time? You guys are in charge of where the money goes. Where have you guys been this whole time? Hey, where's Governor Tim Walz, by the way? He didn't weigh until today, and this story broke 3 days ago. Quote, "We are monitoring the situation in St. Paul and working to understand what unfolded. We received no heads up from federal authorities on this operation." Stop! You guys should have been the one doing the investigations. You guys should have been the one shutting all this down. You guys should have been the one stopping the money. You've been governor for how long? You should be waiting for the feds to come in. How come you didn't know this beforehand? He says, well, we are always willing to work together on public safety. That's clearly not what this chaotic situation is about. Give me a break. Now you're trying to demonize the Trump administration who found the fraud in your state that you didn't notice for years? 4 years. Tim Walz is such a boob. Just an absolute boob. Exactly. You didn't know what was going on in your own state. And the blame falls on the Republicans who are running the state house, who didn't know what was happening either. Do you guys not audit anything? Do you not have any accountability? What happened in Minnesota, you think isn't happening here in Washington? You think isn't happening in other states? That happens to be a massive Somalian population. We have them here too. We have a massive Somalian population in South Seattle. And that Seattle cop is the one who exposed all this. Why was a Seattle cop investigating stuff in Minnesota? Or do you think he was investigating what was actually happening here? You want to know a unique tie to this that I found out? Remember bus bombing lady? You remember Uba Gardir? She was running for King County Council a couple cycles ago. And she walked onto a bus filled with middle schoolers and threatened to blow it up in 2010. That kind of ended her political campaign when I found the video of that a couple years ago. When I was looking up who was funding her, a whole bunch of money was coming from Minnesota. And I looked it up and I said, why are daycares in Minnesota donating to a King County Council candidate here in Washington? I pulled up the addresses of some of these locations. Now, Mike, I've discussed before how when I was starting private schools here in the area for my kids, we rented whatever we had. One of them was an old nursing home, whatever we could find, storefronts, wherever we could find to put these things in. But there's always evidence there's kids around. So, for example, there's a playground or there's something, because you can't have a licensed daycare program without a playground. When I start pulling up the addresses of these contributors in Minnesota, strip malls, empty storefronts, no playgrounds. It wasn't because these pictures were taken on a weekend, guys. Because you saw cars in the parking lot at other locations, but not at this one. Something is very unkosher here. Very not kosher here, and how widespread is the fraud? We know it was going on in Minnesota. Was it going on here too? Where else was it happening? Because taxpayer dollars were being spent on terrorist groups. and this was all being done through Homeless Inc. Later in the show today, we're going to talk about how Nick Brown is now suing the Trump administration to keep the money flowing to our Homeless Inc. Do we know where all of it's going? Because there has never been an audit of Seattle's Homeless Inc. or King County's Homeless Inc. or Washington State's Homeless Inc. And we keep pouring billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars into it. And it's only gotten worse. Only gotten worse. In fact, when we come back, my friends, we're going to tell you all about Nick Brown's lawsuit and why he's taking on President Trump. Survivor reality star versus Apprentice reality star. Tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. The Seattle Times endorsed Bruce Harrell, and now they're trying to get back in Katie Wilson's good graces, so they're going to write as many puff pieces as they can to say, yeah, we don't want to lose access. So they write as a headline, Seattle's next mayor is willing to meet with anyone, including Trump. That kind of sounds like a cry for help, doesn't it? Kind of like she was crying into her cornflakes that she didn't get invited to the White House when Zoran Mamdani did. In fact, there's methinks thou doth protest too much. It says here, as for a national response, both positive and negative, she's tried to ignore most of it, save for a spot on CNN. She turned down most national media requests and purposely did not comment on Trump calling her a communist. Do you know why I think that is? I think it has nothing whatsoever to do with the fact that she's focused on her transition team. I think it has everything to do with the fact that she didn't do well on that CNN interview, and she's not good in any interviews, and she wasn't good in that press conference. I think what they're doing is keeping her out of sight. Thinking, if we let Mamdani take all the flack, then she can do whatever she does here, and the eyes of the nation won't be analyzing what she's up to in Seattle. Very smart political move, by the way. Very smart move. Because as soon as they start linking her with Mamdani, the spotlight's on Seattle. All anybody's going to want to know about is what the mini Mamdani's doing. Now, she says she wants to meet with anybody. Tell you what, guys, should we invite her on the show? Haven't done that yet. Should we invite her on the show? I think I did that right after one of her comments towards the end of the race. Let me know what you think. Send us a text. Should we invite Katie Wilson on the show? 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Meanwhile, what is making national news is our Attorney General Nick Brown is leading a coalition of states in a lawsuit against the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development over policy changes that he claims threaten housing stability for tens of thousands of Americans. No. We went through this last week because we were thrilled HUD was doing this. It says, you don't just get good money to throw after bad. You need to show actual results. It needs to go to actual treatment, and it can't be going to things like crack pipes for drug addicts. Why is that so hard to understand? Here's something else. Has there ever been an audit done on Homeless Inc.? Bruce Harrell, when he first became mayor, called for an audit of the LEAD program, the Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Program, which basically is all about keeping criminals out of jail. He didn't actually go through with it because he got such pushback from the left. And you got to wonder, when somebody doesn't want you to do an audit, why is that? Afraid of what you might find? I think so. I absolutely think so. So now they want to make sure they keep getting all this money. Well, from what we've seen, all the billions of dollars you guys have gotten has only made things worse. Bruce Harrell said in one of the last debates that over 70% of the people who are homeless in Seattle are not from Seattle. So you're incentivizing them to come here. We know that since they declared they want to end homelessness in 10 years, and I think it's been 10 years since they had the official King County declaration, that ever since they did that, it's gone exponentially worse because they just keep pouring money into a failing system. Why would they keep doing that? Unless people are benefiting from it who aren't the people on the streets, because they're clearly not benefiting from it. I mean, we're lucky just the other day that you had the Seattle City Council cut off funding for the crack pipes. You literally had Sarah Nelson, the on her way out Seattle City Council president, holding up a bag from King County Public Health and showing what's inside it that they're funding, giving out to addicts. Foil, perfectly cut, crack pipes, you name it. That's not making anything better. Sarah Nelson correctly said that's like handing somebody who's suicidal a loaded gun. She's 100% right. Now, there was this humorous moment in that meeting. Seattle City Council member Joy Hollingsworth, right after Sarah Nelson pulls out the bag, which says King County Health right on the side of it. And what's the symbol for King County? Martin Luther King. So his face is right there on this bag. Here's what Seattle City Council member Joy Hollingsworth said.
Thank you, Council President, and thank you for bringing the bag for us to all see. I'll be honest. I know that this has been a concern of a lot of folks, and I'm not an expert matter or have the knowledge to weigh in on this. If you brought an amendment, though, I'll tell you this. If you brought an amendment to take Martin Luther King's face off that bag that we're handing out, paraphernalia in, I would totally vote for it, because that is the most Seattle thing I could possibly think of when I saw that. Just because of these are real serious issues. It's very performative to put his face on and then hand out this stuff.
I love Joy Hollingsworth, and her and I disagree on about 60% of political issues, but I sit with her at fundraising dinners from time to time because I always get put at the political table. Wonderful woman. Sweet as sugar, responds to my emails. She's wonderful. She truly believes in working with the other side. Really, she really, really does. But she's 100% right. That is the most Seattle thing ever. And so performative that you put his picture on the side of the bag of stuff you're giving to crack addicts. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Leonard in Shoreline. Leonard, what's up, man?
Speaking of that, I'm glad you mentioned in that last segment about Mr. Pollard, the one that spied on America. I couldn't believe it. I mean, he should have been executed for that. And now we find out he got away with it. Sounds like something's wrong here with this.
I don't think he got away with it. He was in jail from 1985 until, when did Obama leave office? 2016? So he was in jail for that long. He didn't get away with it. But the question is, what happened to him afterwards? Yeah, I don't think he should be meeting with the U.S. ambassador to Israel, especially given that he was a traitor. I'm kind of curious why he met with Mike Huckabee. More investigation to be done on that. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. Don't forget to weigh in. Should we have Katie Wilson on the show? Give us a text. Yes or no. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, President Donald Trump pardoned some turkeys at the White House in advance of Thanksgiving, but there's some amazing audio of how he pardoned them and what he said. We'll have that entertaining awesomeness for you when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I love the holiday season. Can somebody explain this to me? When did Thanksgiving start getting a happy holiday? I don't remember that till this year. I know the left did that nonsense with Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I don't care about that. You wish me a Merry Christmas, I'll wish you a Merry Christmas. I'm not offended by that at all. But people all day today, I went to the bank, I went to the grocery store, I went to Starbucks. Everybody's saying, Happy Holiday. Why? It's Thanksgiving. You should be thankful for what you have every day. Why are we saying Happy Holiday for Thanksgiving? It's not a religious holiday. It's a country holiday. We live in America. I love Thanksgiving. I love all this stuff. You say Happy Thanksgiving to me, I'll say Happy Thanksgiving to you. You know who's doing a lot of Thanksgiving cheer on the White House lawn today? President Trump. Excuse me, this was yesterday. Yesterday, President Trump was pardoning turkeys on the White House lawn, which I think is ridiculous, but still it's fun to watch every president do this.
Are you ready?
He's talking to the bird.
I just want to tell you this very important. You are hereby unconditionally pardoned.
I love you hear the bird making the noises in the background. By the way, I love this with every president. This one, though, this is his best line of the entire event, because apparently some of his predecessors' pardons are being called into question.
Handsome Thanksgiving turkeys, and this is their lucky day. This is a lucky day for them. But before going any further, I want to make an important announcement, because you remember last year, after a thorough and very rigorous investigation by Pam Bondi and all of the people at Department of Justice, the FBI, the CIA, the White House Counsel's Office, and the Department of Everything. We have a Department of Everything. You know what that is? I think that's called the White House. Into a terrible situation caused by a man named Sleepy Joe Biden. He used an auto pen last year for the turkey's pardon. So I have the official duty to determine, and I have determined that last year's turkey pardons are totally invalid, as are the pardons of about every other person that was pardoned other than Where's Hunter?
I love that. I do. I know people don't like partisanship. It's funny. It's funny because it's true. A little bit more funny from our president.
The turkeys being pardoned today go by the names of Gobble and Waddle. When I first saw their pictures, I thought we should send them, I shouldn't say this. I was going to call them Chuck and Nancy. But then I realized I wouldn't be pardoning them. I would never pardon those two people.
Okay. I know some people get mad about this. It's a little funny, though. This was another good line he had.
These are two of the largest turkeys ever presented to an American president, over 50 pounds each. It's the largest we've ever had. And those are big turkeys. Are they as good as the normal-sized turkey? Better or as good? Do they tend to be a little fatty, maybe? No, he said no. He knows the turkey business. Anyway, despite their size, Secretary Kennedy has formally certified that these are the first ever Maha turkeys. I don't know if I agree with that. These are Maha. In other words, they could be fat, but they're still Maha.
I like that. They could be fat, but they're still Maha. Turkey's healthier. That's why people eat it instead of meat. I'm not the biggest turkey fan. I know people are going to call me un-American here. I'm not the biggest fan of the Thanksgiving food. Mike looks like he was ready for me to say this.
You want to walk that back just a little bit. You're like, turkey is healthier. That's why they eat it instead of meat.
Is it not healthier?
It's meat.
It's okay. We define these things differently, you and I, sir.
Do we? I don't think that we do.
They give you the turkey salami instead of the regular salami because they say it's healthier. Yes? No?
That doesn't make it not meat.
Okay, fair. Fair. I like the fact check right there.
What are you talking about?
I'll take that from you. That is fine. Okay. We distinguish between these things. We do the bird separate from the meat. Sorry, that's in my mind.
Poultry is still meat, my friend, no matter how you slice it.
Literally. No matter how you slice it. I do like that. We should have Mike in a Talmudic discussion about the difference between meat and chicken and bird and fish and fowl and all this. Exciting. Don't worry about it.
It's all meat!
That's what the rabbis held, which is why I can't have a cheeseburger. This is why I can't have cheese. This is why I can't have chicken parmesan, because of that kind of thinking. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Mario and Kent. Mario, what's going on?
Hey, buddy. Hey, listen, I just got done commenting to your colleague there, Mike, but what I wanted to say is, yes, you should have her, and then you'll realize that her IQ is about negative 1.2, like I have always alluded to.
Oh, you mean Katie Wilson? I'm like, what are we talking about here? Oh, you mean Katie Wilson?
Yes, Katie
yeah.
Wilson,
Okay. Yes.
And then secondly, Aria, I think more important than Katie Wilson, because she's an actor, is the 6 communist clowns that told the military to disobey orders from the president, which is unlawful and unconstitutional. And let me tell you something, buddy. That is the strategy of the commies for divide and conquer. If you start doing that, you start creating problems where people think, well, I don't have to answer that order and I don't have to do this, and it's going to end up getting somebody hurt or killed.
You're exactly right. And here's something else, Mario, is that every time these guys are interviewed, especially Alyssa Slotkin, who nobody heard of until 5 minutes ago. So Alyssa Slotkin, when she's being asked multiple times now in multiple interviews, what orders has the president given that are illegal? She can't even answer the question. This was a publicity stunt. That's what it was. I'll give you the last word, then I got to run.
No, yes, and that's what I'm saying. We should not let go of these stories, because these people should be charged with insurrection and sedition and thrown in jail.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would agree with you, Mario. In fact, if you agree with Mario, give me a text. Let me know if you think the people who said that that soldiers should disobey President Trump's orders, if you think they should be charged, the seditious 6. Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Mario, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show or weigh in, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. With regards to my question, should we have Katie Wilson on the show? Jeff and Kent says, oh, yes, definitely invite her. In fact, engraved invitation. Murphy says yes and ask her questions that'll make her sound stupid, which she already answers them that way anyway. Yeah, I don't think I have to try that hard to do that one. This one here, Robin Lakewood, says the Seattle commie mayor. Yeah, have her on. This one here, Dan Smith. Yes, bring the communist on the show. Let her talk herself into a corner and watch her prove she's a dim bulb. Okay. Let's not call people names. You can call her a commie. Lisa in Redmond says, have her on the show. I bet she won't come. If she does, ask her every hard question and watch her backpedal or answer something else, but never what you asked her. I bet she won't come because she knows you will ask her the hard questions and won't be able to get out of it. All right. It seems unanimous over here on the text line, except for Robin Lakewood, who says, Ari and Big Mike, happy Thanksgiving. That was very, very nice. Seems unanimous. I will reach out to the transition team for Katie Wilson and see about having her on the show. When we come back, my friends, more of your calls, more of your texts, plus Mom Donnie gets called out on his own racism. We'll tell you what happened when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, download the KVI app and, of course, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. That way you never miss a minute of the show. Remember, while you're there, to rate and share so that way your friends get to enjoy all the fun over here. I say right here, he got all these texts in, and it says, hey, Ari, I think he, meaning President Trump, should pardon Hillary along with the other turkeys. By accepting a pardon, she would benefit and never be prosecuted, but go down in history as the biggest American turkey. I don't think that would be it. I think she would have to go down in history as getting a pardon from President Trump. I think that would be a good one. This one here from the 206. Yes, please have Katie Wilson on the show. It would be good. This one here from Eben and Bonnie Lake. I think they should be tried for treason, talking about the seditious six, for trying to start an insurrection against our government, because that's exactly what they are trying to do. Man, you guys are hot on this topic. This one here, Tony says, arrest them for subversion. Jeremy says, you could interview Katie. It would just be like Kamala without the laugh. Oh, that's good. That's very, very good. Not as much fun, though, I don't think. Not as much fun, though. Larry says, Ari, you should ask Katie Wilson, what is a woman? Oh, that would be fun. Just watch her squirm over that one. Very good. Everybody says, charge the seditious six. This is great. I love all the interaction today over on the text line, guys. It's really fantastic. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Paul in Bonnie Lake. Paul, what's going on?
Thank you for taking my call, Ari. Sedition has always been with us, attempts at it, and one of the biggest offenders, Jimmy Carter. After he left office, he met with Brezhnev, wrote to him, urging him to resist Reagan's arms buildup.
Ah, great call, Paul. Absolutely great call. We've had these issues for years and years and years. This is nothing new. Great call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text to 206-421-5757. Tim says over on the text line, hey, if we can identify 72 different genders, if men can be called women and women can be called men, Ari can call turkey a non-meat product. That's very good, Tim. Very, very good. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Jeff in Olalla. Jeff, what's going on?
Hey, Ari. I always enjoy your program. I remember when you first came on the air, you're always out at the Jewish cemetery talking about how to being vandalized and desecrated and all that. And, like a normal person, I said, well, that's horrible. Well, today I went out to see my grandfather's plot, the family plot, and when I got out there, someone had stolen his bronze plaque there, and I just want to let you know now I really feel the sense of desecration and loss that that you felt when you were reporting all that, because I feel like today like I was out there and my grandfather had passed away again.
I'm so sorry, Jeff. I'll tell you this, is that a lot of the non-Jewish cemeteries in town called me when all that was going on. And they said, Ari, we back you 100%, but the problem is we can't go public, because if people knew this stuff was happening in our cemeteries too, they wouldn't have their loved ones buried here. And at the end of the day, it's a business. The Jewish cemeteries, you have to be buried in a Jewish cemetery if you're Jewish, so we kind of have a monopoly on the Jewish business. But a lot of other cemeteries were telling me they were having the exact same problems. Jeff, I'm so sorry. I know what that's going through. And if you email me, I know some good companies that can help you make that right. So if you email me, ari@kvi.com, that's ari@kvi.com, I can put you in touch with some people, and maybe they could do something to the headstone so you don't have to worry about it again in the future, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, take care, Jeff.
Good holiday.
Appreciate you. Yes, exactly. Happy Thanksgiving to you too, sir. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. This one here from Jeff and Kent. He wants me to have Katie Wilson's husband on the show. Sir, why did you choose not to work, but for some reason you still need to pay for daycare for your kid? I don't understand that one. I think he's a professional activist. Maybe it's because he's spending the day going to activist stuff. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Danny, who's still in the Navy. Danny, what's going on, man?
Hey, Ari. Just, some thoughts on the seditious six. Back when I was, this is my 2021 deployment, we were getting the jab. We're out in the middle of the ocean. Our ship took so much precaution. And then the orders come down like, hey, you need to get the shots. And these orders didn't come down until after Biden had taken office. And I remember there was a lot of people on my ship who said, no, like I had COVID before, why do I need a vaccine if I'm already naturally vaccinated from having it in the past? And then we had an admiral come onto the 1MC over the ship and just pretty much make fun of us, make fun of people who didn't want to get vaccine. And this is the same time all those stories are coming up about all the women having very negative reactions, and there's worries about people becoming women being able to give birth after getting the vaccine. And so it's just ridiculous. It's like military members, we know when we get an unlawful order. So some people touting around saying, oh, you don't need to obey orders. Like, what are you doing? Like, you think the military is not smart enough to understand when they're giving an order that is legitimate or illegitimate?
Yeah.
It's completely insane.
Exactly. It's really, really crazy. But we know they were just doing this for the PR because now everybody knows who Alyssa Slotkin is, good or bad, and she's become a hero of the Democrats for the resistance. Appreciate the call, buddy. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my phone lines are blowing up like a Christmas tree, so more of your calls. Plus, also, I can't believe this, but I'm going to be siding with PCC. Yeah, must be a cold day in hell. We'll tell you about what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Brigitte Gabriel joins us to talk about the terrorist threats here in America and what President Trump is doing about it. But before we get to any of that, anybody who's a long-term listener to the Ari Hoffman Show knows I hate PCC, the community co-op grocery stores in our area. If it's so healthy, why does everybody who shopped there look like they are wasting away and dying? It's like the Walking Dead. It's like the aging white hippies who show up to protest Let's Go Washington. It looks like the guy, Donovan, at the end of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, who drinks from the wrong cup. You watch these people's hair grow out all gray and the skin falling off their face in front of you if you go to PCC. You want to see Indiana Jones in person? You go to PCC, and as they grab their fresh sourdough bread, the skin comes off their face because they're melting away. And what's happening to me? It's also overpriced. It's also pretentious. And this is something that's just me. I'm kind of getting better about this a little bit, but because I'm from New York, I just want to get in. I want to get out. And I know a lot of people around here like it when the person talks to you, but it's leave me alone. I mean, I will be nice. Hey, how you doing? Happy Thanksgiving, whatever. But they always, these are the nicest flowers I've, oh, you're having wine tonight. Isn't that wonderful? I don't need a commentary on every item I bought. Besides, if I go over to the pharmacy, who knows what I'm going to come back with, and then we're going to have some interesting discussions. But I can't believe that the local lunatics have gone so far overboard. I am taking the side of PCC. So apparently tomorrow, the local Hamasniks and Democratic Socialists of America, but I repeat myself, are planning a boycott of PCC. Why? They don't want them supporting Israeli products. They don't want them carrying Israeli products. News flash for the dum-dums. Most of the products you're mad about are not even owned by Israelis anymore. You want the classic example? Sabra hummus. Sabra hummus got bought by PepsiCo, which means Frito-Lay, which is why now we have weird flavors of hummus like Doritos flavored hummus or whatever other insanity comes out. So you're protesting them because they're Jewish, because they were made by Jews. That's what's really going on here. We see right through it. Also, is the war still going on? So what are you doing? It also says support workers. Wait, I don't understand. Are we supporting workers or are we boycotting Israel? What's your cause du jour? What's your cause of the day? How come you're not boycotting stuff that comes from China? Human rights abuses over there, not saying anything about that. Stuff that comes from Vietnam? Oh, communism, too close to socialism. That's right. So we're not going to go down that road. No, just the Israel thing. Your racism is showing, guys. So you know what I'm going to do? Oh, my God. This hurts not just me, but my wallet. I am going to go to PCC tomorrow just to buy something. And me walking into a PCC, I tried for years. I made it 10 years without walking into the PCC in Columbia City. I made it 10 years without walking into that place. And then one day my wife goes, what, you're just going to sit in the car and let me go in by myself? And I kind of wanted to say yes, but I also want to stay married. So I broke my streak and actually went into the Columbia City PCC. So tomorrow, I think I'm going to make a specific point to go find something, buy something at a local PCC because this is absolutely insane. Insane. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Jason in Kent. Jason, what's up, man?
I think you meant Keith.
Oh, okay. Keith, what's up, man?
Hey, unless something has changed in the military, 30-plus years ago, they used to have yearly training for the enlisted on what was and wasn't a lawful military order.
Mm-hmm.
So for them just to remind the military folks to mind their training shouldn't be a big deal. And I don't know why Pete Hegseth in the government is way overreacting.
So I agree. I think that right now they put out the bait. Donald Trump took the bait And now we have a multi-day news story. I mean, what, this happened last week or something, and we're still talking about it? This, they knew Donald Trump would react, and as a result of it, they're getting all the attention they wanted. Whereas what President Trump should have done, somebody should have said, he should have just replied to the video, what are the illegal orders? Name them. Because when even TMZ did that the day they were announced, Alyssa Slotkin couldn't name any. When she was asked by CNN or any of the other outlets, what are the illegal orders, she can't name any, and then she would have just looked like an idiot. But because he took the bait, the story is now about him and Pete Hegseth, not about Alyssa Slotkin being a moron. Keith, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. Appreciate your service. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from our friend Transit Joe. Transit Joe, what's up, man?
What's up is today you gave me a good tip about this anti-Semite, and I emailed the King County Council about the anti-Semite who wants to oversee our law enforcement.
Well, wait a second. Hang on. Slight correction there, Joe. Tamer Abu Zaid is already overseeing our law enforcement. He has a history of anti-white, anti-Christian, anti-Republican, anti-police, and anti-Semitic comments on social media and pro-Hamas. Not just the difference between anti-Israel, but actually pro-Hamas. And he is currently overseeing our law enforcement. He's up for renewal. Continue.
Thank you for the supplement to my after-action report. Much appreciated. It has now been referred over to committee, so we have another chance to testify against this pro-October 7 goon, who I told the King County Council was pro-October 7, and then I recommended that they hire instead Redmond Vice President Jessica Forsyth, who has been a gallant voice for law enforcement accountability, who opposes flock cameras, Donald Trump, and ICE. If they can't pick Jessica Forsyth over this clown, these guys have a real problem.
Yeah,
and
so
maybe we should
so I'll say this, Joe. I know you and I come from different parts of the political spectrum, but there's a real line in the sand to be drawn between supporting terrorism, and I think that's really where that line should be drawn. And this guy, he's been a national story ever since he got appointed. He has no interest in actually overseeing law enforcement. His interest is in abolishing law enforcement. That's a very, very different thing. Joe, appreciate your testimony. Appreciate you showing up for all that. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. And actually, what Joe brought up is a very important thing. I was planning on talking about it later in the show, but let's do it now. Tamer Abu Zaid, who is right now overseeing law enforcement. He's the director of the Office of Law Enforcement Oversight in King County. And he's up for renewal on December 2nd. Now, this is a guy with, like I said, a very, very, very bad history of social media comments, so much so that when he keeps getting called out by not just the local media, but the national media, he starts deleting things. He's a police abolitionist. This is a guy who's not just anti-Israel. This is a guy who supported the October 7th attacks. That's who this guy is. He hates anybody who's not his exact demographic. In fact, if you're not far left enough for him, he'll come after you too. It seems like there is a drift back to anti-policing. Did we not learn our lesson from 2020? It seems to me that if you want to have a nuanced conversation about policing, you can say the following. Here's a legit thing. Do cops have to be responding to every mental health crisis? And I would say yes, but they may not necessarily be the ones who should be taking the lead. What do I mean by that? You know, wouldn't it be nice if you send social workers who are used to dealing with mental health crisis or drug crises or any of those things out with the police officers? Because then the social worker is safe. Then the social worker is protected. You just send out the social worker by themselves. We saw what happened literally the day the Seattle police were defunded by the Seattle City Council was a day that one of these social workers got stabbed to death by one of her homeless clients. If you want to have a nuanced discussion about policing, should police officers be dealing with drug overdoses? No. But at the same time, you shouldn't have social workers going out there completely defenseless against some psychopath who's smashing cars with a baseball bat. there is a line you can draw. And that doesn't mean defunding the police. But how many frauds were exposed after the Seattle police were defunded and that money was reallocated elsewhere? We saw it with Tammy Morales' office, former Seattle City Council member who's a socialist. The money was going to Nikita Oliver's group with bypassing all the regulations they have in place about how to do that. Does Nikita Oliver even live here anymore? Is her organization even here anymore? That's a name I haven't heard in a long time, So really, there are ways we can have a nuanced discussion about this. You want body cameras on every cop? Great idea. I think it's a great idea. When are we going to put cameras in every classroom? Why would you say no to that? Put cameras in every single classroom. You say, well, of course there's a couple bad cops. I say, then of course there's a couple bad teachers. When are we going to put the cameras in every single classroom? They don't want to have the nuanced conversation. But I think that the defund police movement is going in a different direction. You know what I think it is this time? Wokeifying police departments. Getting police officers who agree with you. What came out of the 2020 Summer of Love? It wasn't just defunding the police department. It was lowering recruitment standards. Where now police departments that were subject to this insanity need more officers and they need them desperately. So by doing this, what they are doing is bringing down the recruitment standards so much that you're getting people who may not be able to physically or mentally do the job, which means you are teeing up more problems down the road. Or you're just saying we want the wokest police department we can possibly have. Maybe it's not that they want to defund the police. Maybe it's just they want their kind of police. And when you get your kind of police who follow your orders, who are they going to be going after next? Can they even respond to a crime? Right now, we now know that the city of Seattle is finally acknowledging that they are well below staffing minimums, that they are at the lowest number of officers they've had since 1991, and our city has exploded in population since then. That's before the tech boom. We have hundreds of thousands of more people living here, and we have less officers because we lost over 700 officers because of this insanity. And now you have Katie Wilson coming in. How many officers do you think are going to say, nope, no thank you, I'm out of here? Tacoma, Pierce County, they're now experimenting with the defund the police craziness. New York, you've got Mamdani saying that. Katie Wilson is a police abolitionist. She's on record. We read you every single quote that she had. Is it going to be one of these things where these guys get into office and go, okay, can't actually do that? Or is it going to be one of these things where they get in full speed ahead? Because Zoran Mamdani's community safety guy, literally on his cover picture for his profile, talks about his book, which is about abolishing the police. We don't know everybody in Katie Wilson's transition team yet. We don't know who's going to be in her administration. Want to bet on a few names? Tammy Morales, to name one. Former Seattle City Council member Lisa Herbold. I bet you all of them are coming back in some capacity to City Hall. So the very people who flushed the city down the toilet are going to be running it again. Bravo. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from our frenemy, Bennett the protester. Bennett, what's up?
Hey, did you hear some good news? Jesse Eisenberg, member of the tribe, he announced he is donating a kidney to a stranger. It's coming up in December.
That's very nice.
You know he is, right? Like
yeah.
Luther. And,
that's very nice.
And I was thinking,
do me a favor,
yeah,
Bennett,
I mean,
you know how to get a hold of me. Shoot me a link to that, okay?
Okay. It was just, you were so worked up earlier in the show talking about a bad Jew. I thought you might like this. It's a bit of a palate cleanser.
What's on your mind today, man?
So we were talking about bots yesterday, and I was thinking about how I think most of the problem is not actually caused by, and you've been talking about like fake accounts lying about what country they're in and how X is exposing all of that. So the thing about my proposed solution is I don't think most of the problems are caused by bots or caused by fake accounts. I think most of the problem is just the huge amount of arbitrariness and luck that determines which things blow up on social media. Like I mentioned how I post jokes on Reddit once in a while. Most of them get 5 votes, and then once in a while one gets 50,000. And it's fine for silly things like Reddit jokes, but that is the effect that's dominating like our political conversation, where it's just aggressively mediocre content that happens to get very lucky.
Hang on a second, Bennett. I'm going to give you this one.
Problem.
I'm going to give you this one, which I think you're going to appreciate. You saw the fake headline I put up yesterday about Katie Wilson. I think you were the only one who realized that was a joke, right? We saw that yesterday.
Yeah.
And yet the huge amount of reaction it got off that. Now, something entertaining is that on Twitter, people take these things seriously. On Facebook, they realize they're jokes, which is even more fascinating, even though it's got a giant Ari Hoffman faux thing right there at the top. So, yeah, this is our political conversation now, where people are looking at this kind of stuff, and that's the conversation they're having, which is crazy. I agree something needs to be done, but I think the problem is that for the big social media companies, there's no such thing as bad content, because if it's getting interaction, they don't care. They don't care. And then you're going to end up in a world like Idiocracy. If those people are liking things and it's not even very bright, that's going to be the stuff people see all the time. Look, a lot of us like dumb cat memes. I don't even like cats, and I like the dumb cat videos. That's the kind of stuff that's getting promoted, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, remember, one of the things I said when I talked about this earlier is it's actually not the content that gets the most likes that actually usually goes viral. That's actually the problem. The social media tends to promote stuff that is actually not getting the most likes, but it randomly picks things and blows them up. And so remember the solution I was talking about. Let's say you create like a video of yourself, a guitar play or a guitar song that you've written. The system randomly releases it to a small sample of the target audience. If enough of those people like it, the site pushes it to the rest of that target audience. But think of how that overturns everything that we think we know about what it takes to be successful. There is no more luck. There's no more asking for favors from friends who have already gotten a big break. There's no more, hey, I'll get all my friends to go and vote for this thing. No, you can't go and get your friends to vote for your content.
I wish you were right, but the problem is, like, for example, I'm an honest movie critic. Right, I'm not a professional movie critic, but when Mike and I go to movies, I like to be honest. I didn't go see Wicked because I knew I would hate it. I like musicals. I didn't like this musical when I saw it on Broadway. So then people go and review the movie. There's a lot of movie critics out there that don't like action movies. And I hate when they review action movies, because why am I listening to their opinion? So the flaw with that is that it will send that kind of stuff to people who may not enjoy it anyway, and they may downvote perfectly good content. But I hear your frustration. I hear what you're talking about. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. This one from Greg. My sister calls Whole Foods whole paycheck. That's good. That's very good. Oh, we are definitely using that one in the future for sure. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss as the show continues. So a teacher who is no longer a principal in Seattle Public Schools has found his way over to Bellevue Public Schools. What is going on here? We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, it wouldn't be a day that ends in Y without one of the teachers' unions that controls your kids' education across the country being in hot water. According to Fox News, one of the top teachers' unions in the country is facing criticism over an upcoming training session that will instruct members on how to go through a gender transition at work, including best practices for using gender pronouns and combating transphobia, while also being provided with literature labeling conservative opposition as villains. You know, I thought we'd have a moon base by now. I thought we'd have flying cars by now. Instead, we have men who think they're women who want to go into women's bathrooms. In a document posted on its website, the National Education Association announced to more than 3 million educator members a slate of training programs, including a session named Advancing LGBTQ plus Justice, scheduled for December 2nd through 4th. The union will also hold an Advancing Racial Justice Through Union Work on January 13th through 15th. Understanding this community and their issues is critical to providing support and guidance that is not only inclusive but liberating, they said. Goals of the training include establishing a common understanding about the identities under the LGBTQ plus community umbrella, developing a shared understanding of the anti-LGBTQ plus policy landscape, and how to develop counter-narratives of inclusion and equity, deepening skills and strategies to confront implicit bias, microaggressions, and stereotypes in the LGBTQ plus community, and creating a toolset of tactics for dismantling systems of privilege and oppression as it relates to the LGBTQ plus educators and students. You know, I consider myself an educated human being, but I have no idea what that says. I have no clue whatsoever. You know who I ask for gender advice? That kid from Kindergarten Cop, that little 6-year-old.
Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina.
It is that simple. You know what? I identify as a 6'3" NBA star. Give me a spot on the team. That's how I identify. Give me billions of dollars in salary and give me a spot on the team. I want to be on the Knicks because they lose all the time anyway, so I won't be bringing the team down. Put me on the Knicks. We can do this. This is insane. Absolutely insane. And this is what your tax dollars are being spent on. This is what your tax dollars are being spent on. Now, why do you think that these unions are so mad about the Department of Education being defunded? Well, unions can dictate stuff for their members, but they can't dictate it for the whole country. They want the Department of Education to push this nonsense in every school, every public school across the country. This is what they're focused on. You want to know why your kids' grades are terrible? This is why. You know, I talk to my parents, I talk to my in-laws, and they tell me that when they were in school, they had shop class, they had balancing your checkbook, they had actual classes. What do we have now? Which bathroom to use? You know, I think you figure that out when you're a little kid and you follow the little stick figure on the bathroom. Shouldn't be that complicated. Beyond crazy that we're now doing this. By the way, the Trump administration is suing California over the fact that they're giving free tuition to illegal aliens. That's your taxpayer dollars. They are incentivizing, they are encouraging illegal immigration. The U.S. Department of Justice has filed a lawsuit challenging several California laws that grant in-state tuition, scholarships, and subsidized loans to illegal aliens, arguing that the policies unlawfully discriminate against U.S. citizens from other states and conflict with federal law. You know, I remember during COVID, Jay Inslee and Jenny Durkin, they all had all these plans, all these funds that would give money to businesses if your color was a certain pigmentation. It wasn't available to anybody else. I wish somebody had sued over those. I wish somebody had sued over those because they were discriminatory. There's no such thing as reverse racism. It's just flat out racism. Speaking of which, do you remember about 6 months ago, we found out about a case at Nathan Hale High School in Seattle, where there was a Jewish girl who was being bullied for being Jewish, which culminated in the Muslim student group showing up at her classroom, demanding she come out, and that the teacher had to lock the door to the classroom to stop the lynch mob from getting her, which is exactly what they wanted to do. The girl is frantically texting her parents to come save her from school, and then the school administration wouldn't do anything about it. In fact, they tried to sweep it under the rug. When she asked for a pass-fail, they wouldn't honor a lot of her requests. They wouldn't help her transfer to another school. Nothing. Well, the guy who was principal at the time, his name is Dr. William Jackson. You know that Dr. William Jackson, the year that all this was going on, won Washington Principal of the Year? Yeah, had a literal lynch mob in his school and won Washington Principal of the Year, and then was referred for a higher award nationally, which he got from a national organization. That's your teacher of the year. That's your principal of the year. Well, something fascinating is he's not the principal of Nathan Hale. We don't know why. We don't know if he wanted to go somewhere else or retire or got fired. We don't know anything because the Seattle Public School District won't tell us. But we know that now he's in the Bellevue School District right nearby. And here's something else. Coming up in December, there's one of these listening sessions. What's a listening session? Well, apparently they listen to different groups about problems that are happening in the school. And this one's with the Jewish and Israeli community because there's been a ton of anti-Semitism in the Bellevue School District. A lot of it's coming from the teachers. There's been a ton of this stuff going on. And who's one of the people in the listening session? Dr. William Jackson. So the guy who ignored all this stuff at Nathan Hale High School is now one of the administration folks put in charge of the listening session at Bellevue High School? Are you kidding me with this nonsense? Are you kidding me? All right, let's have Mark Furman. Let's have him go be in charge of black community relations with police officers. Should we do that? Let's go do that. Come on, guys. This is bonkers crazy. Between all the stuff that you hear about the public schools on my show all the time, why are your kids still in the public schools? There is no reason for your kids to still be in the public schools, given this insanity is happening every single day. They see your kid as somebody to brainwash. That is their goal, to brainwash your kid to be one of their drones. That's all they see your kid as. Why are you trusting your most valuable possession, your most valuable commodity, to these crazies who just want to brainwash them for their own purposes? Your job is to teach math, science, history, reading. Is it any wonder that our education standards have fallen so far and these kids are not at grade level? When we come back, my friends, Brigitte Gabriel will be joining us to tell us about the administration's efforts to combat terrorism. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570, KVI. My friends, there is a woman who needs no introduction whatsoever, and I'm so thrilled to have her on the show. It's Brigitte Gabriel, national security analyst, New York Times bestselling author, and her latest bestseller is called Rise, and she joins us now on the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Ari. I'm delighted to be with you.
So tell me why you decided to write this book.
Well, because I see that our Western values, our Western way of life is under attack. We are seeing an element within Western nations, regardless of where you live, whether Australia, Canada, England, the Netherlands, it doesn't matter. We are seeing our Judeo-Christian values under attack. And by the way, Judeo-Christian values are the foundation of Western civilization. This book is not religious in any way, shape, or form. It just goes through the values that built Western civilization to be the greatest civilization in history and how now we are under attack and why we must strive to defend our freedoms.
I know that this is news that just broke over the weekend, but what Elon Musk did by turning on the location of everybody on social media, we now see that there has been this massive bot operation targeting the West, targeting MAGA, targeting Israel, targeting those very Judeo-Christian values, and none of these people even live in this country. A lot of them live in Europe or places in the Middle East, have nothing to do with the situation whatsoever. What's your reaction to that?
Well, it's not a surprise to me because I can tell you, as somebody who's been bad-mouthed on Wikipedia, everybody now goes to Wikipedia because they think, for example, Wikipedia is the encyclopedia of anything truthful that has ever been written. That's where you go to get information. Well, most people don't realize is Wikipedia can be edited by anybody and everybody anywhere around the world. Well, I am an American author and political commentator. The people that control my Wikipedia page are two guys living in London, England. I cannot touch my page. I cannot change my page. I have hired advertising and PR agencies spending $10,000 a month for them to be able to edit my Wikipedia page, and they could not even do it because it is completely controlled and blocked by these two guys that live in England who do not agree with anything I speak about in defense of America and its values. They're not even Americans. So when I saw the news coming out over the weekend of all this operation of people outside of the United States controlling the flow of information that impacts the political opinion and general opinion of the American public in a way that impacts the direction of our country, the foreign policy of our country, the inner politics of our country, I was not surprised nor shocked because I know that there is a systematic plan, which I talk about, the Muslim Brotherhood plan to dominate and infiltrate the West and establish an Islamic government on earth. It's a 100-year plan written by the Muslim Brotherhood. And when we look at the implementation of that plan, you realize this is not an offshoot, little something happening here in America or little something happening, in Canada or in France. It is a coordinated global activism that is trying to impact Western nations and their foreign policy using everything they can, whether immigration, whether in the war of information. The internet has become the new theater of war. So using everything at their disposal to destroy the West.
We're talking with Brigitte Gabriel, who is a New York Times best-selling author, and she's got her new book out now called Rise, which is also on the New York Times best-selling list. And when I talked to Gad Saad, when we had him on the show, he was talking about, I know what I'm talking about because I came from places that embrace this radical ideology. Look what it did to those places. That's why I'm in America now. I look at what you're talking about with the Muslim Brotherhood. I'm looking at the Council for American Islamic Relations. And as you talk about this 100-year plan, I think that baked into the cake is things like the Holy Land Foundation. They knew it would get taken out eventually. They had CARE ready to go. They've got the Muslim Brotherhood. They've got all these different organizations. Now the CARE is under the microscope. I assume something else is going to come next that we don't even know about yet because they're playing the long game and we're playing to be reactive. How do you propose to solve that?
Exactly, Ari. And this is why people like me and Gad Saad, who come from Lebanon, who come from the Middle East, who actually fled and came to America. How do you think we ended up in America? We immigrated here because of Islamic persecution of minority. Gad Saad happened to be Jewish. I happen to be Christian. Where the Islamic slaughter and persecution of Jews and Christians out of the Middle East. That's how a lot of people ended up in the West. Now, in our case, as Jews and Christians, you assimilate into the society. Obviously, we come from the same culture, the same religious practices, the same everything. But what's happening right now is we are importing people into our country who do not share our values. And we are importing them either by resettling them as refugees in our country, like the Somali community in Minnesota, for example, that now gifted us Ilhan Omar in Congress, or Rashida Tlaib, who comes from a Palestinian background, who is now also a congresswoman. But when you look at the infiltration of our society, Ari, most people don't realize that just in this last election, 42 candidates, Muslim candidates, have been declared winners with 3 races still pending recount or certification. So 42 Muslim officials now occupy, while all eyes were on Mamdani in New York, while all eyes were on New York. Oh my gosh, the election, we've got a socialist Islamist who is running in New York. Well, 76 Muslims ran, 42 of them got elected. So now we have 42 Muslim officials occupy positions in some of the most influential jurisdictions in the country, from New York mayor's office to Virginia's executive branch, and from Michigan's heartland to local school board. And by the way, they span 9 states, at least 9 states: New York, Virginia, Michigan, New Jersey, Maryland, Washington, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. The list includes 6 mayors. So it's not only Mamdani in New York. 6 mayors, he was only 1 out of the 6, 4 state legislatures, 20 city council and commissioners, 6 school board members, 2 judges, and 3 other political positions. So as you can see, they are not only coming to our country, they are transforming our country with their own ideologies, their own proposals. So you have Mamdani in New York right now, who wants to be New York to be ruled by international law, as if the Constitution is not good enough. And this is just the start. I mean, the guy hasn't even gotten into office yet. Yet this is the ideas that he is bringing, and this is what he wants to impose. That's why we are concerned.
And just before we let you go, in the last few minutes we have with Brigitte Gabriel, who is the #1 New York Times bestselling author of the book Rise, and we really appreciate your time today. We talk about somebody like Katie Wilson, the socialist who just became mayor of our very own Seattle. And let's not forget, she was backed by the Council of American Islamic Relations. So it's not just the people they're putting in office, it's the people they're backing for office as well, who may not even be part of the culture, but they're part of the ideology, the destruction of the Judeo-Christian values, and something we didn't even focus that much time on when she was running for office because we were so tied up in the socialism, is how anti-Semitic she is and how she buys into the same talking points as Mamdani.
Yeah, exactly. And they're doing this systematically nationwide. And by the way, CARE right now and its affiliates are preparing a 2026 directory of elected Muslim officials and expanding programs to mobilize more candidates before the 2026 midterm. Can you imagine? But that's exactly why, Ari, we at actforamerica.org, that's my organization, actforamerica.org. I encourage everyone listening right now, if you are as concerned about the country as I am, go to actforamerica.org, join us, start a chapter in your community, sign up as a volunteer, become a member, and stand with us as we fight to protect our country. We are mobilizing neighborhoods across the country. We are mobilizing communities. We are making sure that our people are prepared, educated, mobilized, and organized to be able to impact the next midterm election, because I can tell you we need to match passion with passion. The leftists and socialists and Islamists have all locked shields together. They are working together for a common goal to transform America into what they believe, into the utopia they believe, socialism, communism, Islamism that's going to fix America. We need to make sure we preserve our country. And so if my message resonates with you, go to actforamerica.org right now. Join us, become a member, start a chapter, together we can save our country.
That's actforamerica.org. You should check it out right away. If the stuff I talk about care all the time, and all these other problems we're having locally with Katie Wilson, everybody else who care endorsed, go to actforamerica.org right now. Check it out. Brigitte Gabriel, author of the book Rise, New York Times bestseller, and founder and chairman of Act for America. Thank you so much for being with us today. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me with you. Bye-bye.
Such a pleasure. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder to make sure you download the KVI app and subscribe to our podcast. That way you never miss a minute of the show. While you're there, share it with your friends and rate it so other people can enjoy the show as much as you do. There's a story that hasn't gotten a lot of play in the media. Usually highway rock throwing season is sometime in the spring, sometime in the summer, when all the people from the taxpayer excuse me, I can't even say this when I'm trying to make a joke today. Holy cow. This is the most Thursday, Tuesday ever is what's going on here. All the taxpayer-funded drug encampments come out to play. So what happens? We had an incident like this over the weekend. Now, what's fishy to me is that the media kind of just wrote the press release and didn't dig down on the details. Follow along with the story and tell me if you're making the same assumptions I am from the story. I reached out to the Washington State Patrol, and this is what I got from them. Good morning, Ari. On 11/22/25, that's over the weekend, just after 10 p.m., we started getting calls regarding a possible suicidal subject on the area of I-705 and 9th Street. Soon after, we started receiving several more calls regarding the same subject holding items in his hand, and then escalating to him throwing objects onto the roadway. Ultimately, it was found out to be a brick that was thrown from an overpass that struck a vehicle and then the passenger inside of that vehicle. Further reports came in about that same subject trying to attack a passerby with a stick. Time out. Time out. Does this sound like somebody who might be one of our taxpayer-funded drug encampment campers? That's what it sounds like to me. Random dude throwing bricks off a freeway overpass and attacking people walking by with a stick? Yeah, that's what it sounds like. The subject was seen in the area near the Glass Museum overpass, which led troopers on a search in the city streets to find the subject. He was later located near 13th and Pacific Avenue and taken into custody. He was arrested and booked on charges of assault, second and third degree, and malicious mischief in the third degree. The victim was transported to Harborview with serious injuries but stable condition. Further details are unknown at the moment. What's missing from this report? What's missing from this report? Let's go over a few things. So, if we have this guy arrested, then we know who he is, right? And if we know who he is, then why don't they give us his identity? And if we know his identity, why don't they give us his criminal history? Why are all these things missing from this? I assume this is one of our unsheltered neighbors, right? Here's something else. Do we know anything else about the victim here? I don't think we know a lot about the victim here. A brick came flying through their windshield and hit them. Were they injured by the brick? Were they injured by the ensuing car accident? Did the brick knock them unconscious and the car went careening down a ravine or into a center divider or get hit by a truck or who knows what on the freeway? All of that information is missing. Normally it says the car then struck the span of a this or got hit by a this and ended up in a here. We know so little. This is the least possible information we could get from a story like this. Here's another question for you. And those of you who live near the area, are there homeless encampments nearby? Where do we normally hear about the rock throwing incidents? They're usually in my neck of the woods. They're usually the I-90 overpass, the entry to I-90, and the overpass that's over there when you're coming off of Rainier Avenue, or where I-90 intersects with I-5 as you're coming down towards the stadiums. That whole section there, that's normally where this is. What's in that area? The jungle. Multiple homeless encampments are all in between those freeways there. In fact, I argue, that the speed bump they put on the entry to that highway is to stop the shopping carts that come rolling down the thing rather than slow down cars getting onto the freeway. I had my daughter take a video the other day. I was driving her out to some school thing or volunteer thing. And I said, sweetie, this is how you know where Seattle ends. Just follow the graffiti. And where the graffiti stops, that's where Seattle's jurisdiction ends. Because other jurisdictions actually take care of what's going on around here. This story screams drug encampment. This story screams homeless. Wait a second. I thought Jay Inslee had allocated all this money to keep our unsheltered neighbors off the freeways. Doesn't sound like you're doing a very good job. I got to say, now when I'm driving on the freeway and I see somebody walking over an overpass, I've always start looking around and figure where I could veer to, where I could swerve to. There's a video that sticks with me. And this is back from, I think, 2020 or 2021. People are driving down I-5 in downtown Seattle. And those of you who have driven down I-5 in downtown Seattle, you know there's a lot of overpasses and a lot of homeless people. In one of these videos, one of those Lime scooters comes flying off the overpass, bouncing through traffic as cars and trucks veer out of the way of this thing. All the time when I'm driving over I-5. I see the police going into the homeless encampments, or I see people from the homeless encampments wandering around. It's only getting worse, by the way. It's that time of year. Can't blame Katie Wilson yet. She's not the mayor yet. I say Bruce Harrell never did anything about it in the first place. He had 4 years. 4 years. Donald Trump got Washington, D.C. cleaned up in, 4 weeks? Maybe not even that long. Bruce Harrell had 4 years. 4 years. And those of you who say, oh, he's so much better than Katie Wilson. How? Why? You cannot make that case. You cannot. Oh, Katie Wilson doesn't like Israel, doesn't like Jews. Bruce Harrell turned over our streets to Hamas. Bruce Harrell didn't do anything to stop that insanity for 2 years. 2 years. Katie Wilson's going to let the city be overrun by homeless. Has it ever stopped being overrun by homeless? Who was president of the Seattle City Council when it got this bad? Who was a city council member when it got this bad? Bruce Harrell. What's the difference between the two? There is no difference between the two. So those of you who say, oh, Seattle's going to get so much worse, I'm not disagreeing it's going to get so much worse. How much worse can it get? What's rock bottom for Seattle? No, really, what's rock bottom for Seattle? I thought rock bottom was the homeless situation in 2017, 2018. I thought rock bottom was COVID. I thought rock bottom was the riots. I thought rock bottom was the autonomous zone. I thought rock bottom was the Hamas encampments. I thought rock bottom was defunding the police. What is rock bottom in Seattle and King County? I have a little prediction. Pain. No, you know what the prediction is? I think it's more stores being boarded up, and I think it's when Microsoft and other companies bail. You've already seen Amazon leaving town, and South Lake Union is an absolute ghost town. What happens if Microsoft leaves Redmond? What happens if Boeing completely goes to other places? What happens then? Is that rock bottom? Is everybody fleeing because of the taxes rock bottom? What do you think rock bottom is for Seattle and King County, maybe even Washington State? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757, because I don't think we're there yet. Speaking of things going on in Washington State, when we come back, my friends, looks like oil is flowing through those pipelines again just in time for Thanksgiving. But did Governor Ferguson actually address this at all? And are we still having problems with this pipeline? We'll tell you all the details and how it might affect your travel plans. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, California blows $450 million on a new 911 system that doesn't work, and now they're scrapping. But before we get to any of that, we go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Shane in Pinehurst. Shane, I asked a question earlier. What do you think is rock bottom for Seattle? What's your answer?
Hi, Ari. I don't think there is a rock bottom. I've been here a long time, and things change. In the 70s, there was a funny show that was local called The Late Show, I think, on Channel 5. And John something was the guy who ran the show, but they had skits that were so funny that were local. And one of them was...
You mean Almost Live? You mean John Keister?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Wow, how do I know that? I'm not even from here. Okay. Yeah, you were saying. Go ahead, Shane.
And I can't remember it.
Yeah.
But they had a skit called The Last Northwesterner, where it was almost like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and it was the locals that were all getting displaced by the Californians at the time.
That's very good.
They were trying to catch They were trying to catch the local people, and one of the things they used was a J.P. Patches doll on a fish, on a fishing rod, and people couldn't resist. They'd go after it.
Now that I actually get some of these jokes, these clips keep appearing on my socials, and they're funny. I mean, the jokes about the Mariners, it's the same thing. Somebody actually suggested that we have John Keister come on the show to do Pike versus Pine about Seattle, where they say, is this Pike or Pine? Because you don't really know the difference. We could do it with all the drug addicts. I think John Keister actually lives near me somewhere.
You should get a hold of him because he was funny.
Yeah. I think I know somebody who knows him. We could play a little Jewish geography, a little 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon here. I think we should get him on the show. Tell you what, KVI Nation, do you think we should get John Keister on the show to do a few of the almost live skits like Pike versus Pine? I think that one would work on radio, right? Shane, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. 5757. Switching gears over to your holiday travel. So with this pipeline leak, are people going to be able to get where they need to go for their travel? Now, according to Como News, the line whose leakage triggered a week-long shutdown of the entire Olympic pipeline system was carrying gasoline, not jet fuel, as originally feared. Senator Maria Cantwell said in a news release, whoa, we have proof of life on Senator Maria Cantwell. She's alive. She exists. Why is she doing? Shouldn't we be hearing from BP? Shouldn't we be hearing from the governor? Why are we hearing from Maria Cantwell? Is there an election coming up? Is she due for election soon? I got to check that out. So apparently she confirmed that the leak originated in the gasoline line, the larger of the two pipelines in the Olympic system. Oh, here we go. We know what's going to happen. Bob Ferguson is going to say, you know what we need to do? More taxes. That's what we need to do. We need to hit you with more taxes. We need to punish those evil oil companies. In fact, I think they already got hit with a $3.2 million fine. Now, mind you, leaks cost money to clean up. They cost inconvenience. I'm not saying BP shouldn't pay. 100% they should. This is their equipment. But what other insanity is Bob Ferguson going to tack on top of this? The leak was discovered by a blueberry farmer on November 11th, who then alerted BP. Aerial shots from the Como News drone reveal a 200-foot section of the two pipelines partially unearthed in the middle of a blueberry field in Snohomish County, south of Everett. The section was excavated throughout the week as crews attempted to find the source of the leak. The gasoline pipeline is 20 inches in diameter, and the fuel pipeline is 16 inches in diameter, running parallel to one another. In the images, a section of the gas line is marked, possibly indicating the leak's location. The soil nearby appears stained, and under the marked section of the pipeline is a giant absorption pad. Details on the extent of the spill and repair timeline remain unclear, but BP confirmed today that the smaller pipeline has restarted. Cantwell said it could take a couple days to replenish fuel reserves at SeaTac Airport. The pipeline leak has caused disruptions to air travel during the holiday week after both lines were shut down to locate the source of the problem. Now, what I said from the beginning is, why aren't we trucking in this stuff? Bob Ferguson goes, I'm going to waive your hours. This way you could drive more hours, but that doesn't make a lot of sense because those are federal regulations. Those aren't state regulations. If you were always planning on finding them, and let's be real, Washington always was, you could have hired truckers. You could have deployed the National Guard. So why didn't you? Why didn't you do either one of those things? Because you just want to take that money to fill your budget gap. That's all you want it for. You're actually going to spend it on cleanup efforts? BP has to do the cleanup. Are you actually going to spend the money on this? No. They just wanted the money. It makes sense if they use that money to hire a bunch of truckers from out of state to bring in the fuel. Or maybe, just crazy idea here, bringing the truckers from the National Guard. They're trained in this kind of stuff. But yet they didn't do either one at all. So what's the fine for? You're bad. We don't like you. Give us your money. That's their solution to everything. Literally everything. Meanwhile, down in Oregon, their governor has declared a state of emergency over all this to ensure that enough fuel arrives in the state while the Olympic pipeline, which supplies more than 90% of the state's fuel, remains shut down due to the leak. Governor Tina Kotek's declaration is intended to keep enough fuel arriving to the state by ships and trucks, partly by waiving certain regulations on how long commercial drivers hauling of fuel can operate. Oh, I've seen this stupid thing before. So you're copying Bob Ferguson's homework. You're not even doing your own. He did this a couple days ago. At least he thought of it on his own. Not a good idea, but at least he came up with it on his own. What have you done? Nothing. Nothing at all. This is so stupid. So stupid. But it's Democrat thinking. Never think outside the box. This is their do something. Oh, we're just going to waive hours we have no control over whatsoever. That is a federal requirement, not a state requirement. Then I saw this one. This, according to Fox News, a new Senate report alleges that the Biden administration pressured U.S. airports to house illegal aliens, even after aviation officials warned that doing so could compromise airport safety and endanger travelers. 2 years ago, I was flying out for Turning Point USA, and I flew in on a Saturday night. I think the conference started on Friday, but I did my show on Friday, spent Sabbath with my family, and then I flew out Saturday night, and I landed at Phoenix's Sky Harbor Airport. It was late at night, very, very late at night. We're talking like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and there were illegal aliens everywhere. I should have taken video of it at the time. One of the other influencers took the video of it coming back. I should have taken video at the time. I was too tired to even think about it, and I'm not a millennial who goes, oh, pull out my cell phone and video this. But there were illegal aliens everywhere. Ari, you're just being racist. How do you know they're illegal aliens? Real easy. They had no belongings with them. They were all over the floors, but they had those government manila envelopes, the ones which just give them their travel. There were signs at the airport that were saying these lines for migrants only. So with no ID whatsoever, they could get on the airplanes. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. The 47-page report titled Flight Risk, released by the Senate Commerce Committee, claims that the Biden administration directed federal transportation agencies, including the Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, and Federal Transit Administration to identify airport facilities that can be converted into temporary shelters or processing centers for illegal immigrants. According to the report, the Biden administration instructed the Department of Transportation and the FAA to inventory available facilities at both federally operated and local airports to divert federal resources to support housing illegal immigrants. So why were they all over the floor? Why were they all over the floor? Do you remember during COVID, the homeless moved into baggage claim at SeaTac? Do you remember they were riding the light rail, free of charge, of course, giving it lice, sleeping on the light rail, so that they could be camping inside the baggage claim at SeaTac Airport? And they figured, well, if we could do it with the homeless during COVID, let's do it with the illegal aliens too. Internal emails obtained by the committee included one from October 6, 2023, in which an FAA official wrote to Massport, which operates Boston Logan International Airport. We have received a request from the White House to determine if there are available facilities on airport or surrounding areas. This is an immediate ask, so please prioritize this effort. Now, this is the best part. A Department of Transportation staff member replied, yikes. This is definitely Fox News fodder in the making. They knew how stupid it was. The committee reported that at least 11 airports, including Chicago O'Hare and New York's JFK, were contacted, sometimes repeatedly, about housing illegal immigrants inside terminals hangars, or auxiliary buildings. You know what's crazy to me? Do you know what you have at airports? Hotels! If you were going to do this, take out some hotel rooms near an airport. But no, let's house them on the floor of the airports. Let's put them in an airplane hangar. That'll do it. You shouldn't be doing it in the first place. But maybe get some transportation. You're at an airport. You got light rail. You got buses. You got all that stuff there. But no. FAA officials allegedly acknowledged that the actions would violate federal grant assurance rules, which restrict non-aviation activities at airports. But the agency ignored them most of the time. Silly rules. Massport cautioned federal officials that Logan Airport was not equipped to intake or manage large migrant populations. Quote, "We are not designed or resourced to manage the intake of migrant populations. This would create a host of unintended safety and security consequences." Okay, let's go through this. Airport security is designed around the people getting on flights. It is not designed around people hanging out in baggage claim or hanging out in the terminal before the checkpoints. You know, you push enough doors, you can get through them. And there were issues. Here's something else. What about the bathroom facilities? You don't have showers in those bathrooms. So now you're going to have a bathroom. You have maintenance problems on top of everything else. Insane. Despite those warnings, Logan Airport ultimately sheltered as many as 352 illegal immigrants overnight in Terminal E and spent $779,000 on cleaning, security, and transportation. Chicago's O'Hare International Airport. Do you remember the giant sheets that were hung up to give them a little bit of privacy inside the airport? How is that compassionate, by the way? Come to America. You get to live in an airport. Not like Tom Hanks in that movie, The Terminal, where it's just him, and he manages to find a cozy existence as a contractor who's making mosaics on the walls. No. We're going to cram you all in on the floor of the airport. So, Chicago O'Hare International reportedly sheltered up to 900 illegal aliens in a shuttle terminal between April 2023 and February 2024. Oh, almost a year. Nice. During that period, police logged 329 service calls, 26 arrests, including cases of theft, disorderly conduct, and a death investigation. Wow, you had people dying on the floors of the terminal. Bravo. Come to America. Die on the floor of the airport. City officials admitted that asylum seekers were not restricted to the staging area. Whoa. Now you got something else. You don't know who these people are. You don't know where they're coming from. You don't know how they're being trafficked. You don't know if they're drug dealers. You don't know if they're terrorists. And you're letting them near an airport? Because we never had issues with terrorists in airports before, right? You know why we have metal detectors? Do you know why we have metal detectors? Not because of 9/11, kids. We had problems with terrorism in the 70s and 80s. That's when we first started having metal detectors. They only got enhanced after 9/11 to start looking for box cutters and shoe bombers and underwear bombers, which is why TSA is the way it is. Beyond airports, the report alleges the administration tasked transportation agencies with additional migrant-related duties, including helping to develop a Know Your Rights pamphlet for bus passengers and coordinating with states tracking bus companies for transporting migrants and encouraging local transit agencies to use federal transit grants to support migrant transportation. Do you realize what this is? If you go to a red state, here's your rights, here's what to say, so you don't get deported, so you don't get arrested. Literally, the more we find out about this, the Biden administration was facilitating an invasion of our country. Anybody who died in the Rio Grande because these traffickers took advantage of it, the Biden administration has some of that blood on their hands, 100%. People who died trying to get here, they definitely have some of that blood on their hands. The committee argues that these actions amount to a dangerous diversion of federal transportation resources that should have focused on aviation safety and infrastructure. Senator Ted Cruz, the ranking member of the Senate Commerce Committee, said in a statement to Fox News that the report shows the Biden administration used transportation agencies to advance immigration policies at the expense of public safety. Quote, "This report exposes how the Biden Department of Transportation conspired with local leaders in New York, Boston, and Chicago to house migrants in airport facilities at taxpayer expenses." He added their decisions to transport illegal aliens through airports without identity checks, even those with felonies, shows a new detail how Biden's open border policy co-opted government agencies to put American citizens at risk. Laken Riley, literally we flew that murderer across the country. Your taxpayer dollars did that. How many terrorists did we fly all over the country? The Biden administration was basically a travel agency for terrorists and drug dealers and murderers and rapists and criminals. Bravo, well done. Really, well done. Just so you could influence an election? Really, there's no other argument for that at this point. That's really all it was, to maintain power, to keep power. That's what it was all about. And your taxpayer money was used for this. They were using your taxpayer money to pay for all this. And you want to know why inflation skyrocketed? Because this is what the federal government was spending money on. We didn't have enough problems locally. They decided to allocate resources to people who aren't even from this country. Crazy. Absolute craziness. Now, mind you, as things are getting kind of back to normal in Washington, D.C., and by that I mean not blowing out the spending on ridiculous things like that, it's only getting worse here in Washington. We've got another legislative cycle coming up, and come December, you're going to start seeing the insanity that Democrats start pre-filing with the legislature. Guarantee you it's going to be tax. According to Bloomberg, as job cuts spread gloom through the Seattle area tech scene, one of Microsoft's top executives is warning that the state proposals for higher taxes risk devastating the region's economy. In Microsoft's home state of Washington, progressive candidates won up and down the ballot this month by promising to address the affordability crisis in and around Seattle. The not-so-subtle villain in these campaigns was the tech industry, whose injection of wealth from high salaries and early career stock grants have priced out just about everyone else. Stop. That's not true. That's not true at all. It's because we didn't build. Florida, when everybody started moving there during COVID, housing prices spiked. Then every developer who was smart started building like crazy, and now their housing prices have gone down. Same thing happened in Texas. So why is it when you have exodus from California, Washington, and other blue states like New York, the housing prices go up? That's because of regulation. Part of the solution proposed by Democratic state lawmakers like Katie Wilson, the socialist who became the Seattle mayor, is to raise taxes again on big companies and people they think are wealthy. By the way, when they run out of big companies and wealthy people, they're going to come for you. Here's something else. All taxes they passed so far, they didn't meet the goals they had. In fact, what happened is they fell short of their goals because wealthy people like Jeff Bezos moved. People said, I'm not paying for this anymore, and companies left. President Brad Smith of Microsoft said these policies will discourage growth and undermine the competitiveness of the Pacific Northwest. If the state's tax burden becomes prohibitive, then every company will reconsider where they put jobs, including Microsoft. Imagine if Microsoft leaves Redmond. Imagine if Microsoft leaves Bellevue. He says there's more air leaking out of the balloon than the balloon popping. Our goal is to continue to be healthy and successful and growing here, but we all need the kind of collaboration across the political community to make that possible. So this is what they're worried about. Brad Smith is now talking about Microsoft might be moving. Microsoft. You think Bill Gates is still here, by the way? I bet his primary residence is somewhere else. Yeah, we all know he lives in Medina, but I bet his primary residence is now somewhere else to avoid the taxes that he helped champion, by the way. If he's smart, he got out of here too. If Microsoft leaves, Starbucks won't be far behind. Who else is going to be left? They will have killed the golden geese. That's what they will have done. And that's what the Democrats are continuing to do. And speaking of massive wastes of taxpayer money, when we come back, my friends, California blew $450 million on a new 911 system that doesn't work, and now they're scrapping. We'll tell you what happened when we come back, but first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast, right now on The Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, download the KVI app and, of course, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. That way you never miss a minute of the show. Also, check out KVI.com. Got some new articles up over there. Plus, while you're there, sign up to become a KVI insider, so that way you get the emails on all upcoming contests, events, and so much more. Going over the Warrior Injury Law text line, Ari, Biden Airlines has brought the world's worst criminals to every state in the country. His whole administration needs to be held accountable for all crimes committed by the people they let in, says John in Auburn. I don't disagree with that. Tom, answering the question I asked earlier about what rock bottom for Seattle is. Rock bottom, the Sounders and the Storm decide to leave town. Yes, the lefty teams. Seattle can get by with no Sonics or Mariners or Seahawks or Kraken, but no soccer or WNBA would be the last straw. Very, very good. This one here from Ryan in the harbor of Gig. Very good, Ryan. Hey, Ari, were the Hamasniks who vandalized the UW engineering building ever charged? No, as a matter of fact, the Hamasniks and Antifa lunatics who caused over $1 million worth of damage to the brand new Boeing engineering building at the University of Washington have still not been charged. That happened on May 2nd. We're coming up on December. May, June, July, August, September, October, November. You're already 7 months. 7 months. You kidding me with this nonsense? You kidding me with this? And by the way, it's all University of Washington Police Department. They're the ones. King County wants to press charges. They still haven't gotten everything they need from University of Washington Police Department. Now, granted, the University of Washington Police Department is not really geared up for this kind of thing, but I'm sure they could get all the help they want. They had the Seattle Police Department responding to them. They had the Washington State Patrol responding. Ask for help. This question here from Mel. Ari, are you on the air tomorrow? Yes, we are live tomorrow from 3 to 6 p.m. So, yes, Mel, we are 100% live tomorrow from 3 to 6 p.m. Switching gears away from Washington to what's happening in our neighbors in the South. California blew $450 million redesigning their 911 system, only to find out it doesn't work and scrap the program. You wonder why they have billions of dollars of debt and a massive budget gap. This is why. According to the New York Post, California, a state that prides itself on being the epicenter of technology, has taught an absolute masterclass in bureaucratic incompetence, scrapping a new 911 system that cost more than $450 million in taxpayer money. The staggering sum, which ballooned from initial estimates in 2019, was poured into the next generation 911. Wait a minute. Next generation 911? Next generation? What are we talking about here? Ah, yes. The next generation of 911. You know, the Enterprise actually worked most of the time, unless affected by outside forces. The next generation 911? It was meant to modernize the state's antiquated 1970s era emergency line. 6 years later, the state's emergency services has thrown in the towel, declaring the initial regional design a colossal and complete failure. In the midst of the catastrophic wildfires and constant earthquake threats, residents will have to wait until at least 2030 for a modern, functioning emergency system. As officials admit, they have to essentially start over. Taxpayers will have to foot the bill for hundreds of millions of dollars more. At the core of the disaster was the state's decision to implement a regionalized 911 system, dividing up California into 4 operational sectors. While the idea behind it was to prevent a single point of failure, the execution was a colossal mess. It appears there's a reason no other state has adopted a similar kind of system. It doesn't work. Thank you, Gavin Newsom. I would love to debate Gavin Newsom. I really, really would. Anything that guy touches turns to you-know-what. After paying nearly $500 million to 4 contracted tech companies, the project ran into significant operational disruptions in late 2024 and then stopped the rollout. Now the state is pivoting to a traditional statewide security system. While dispatchers assured officials the old system still works, the new 911 system promised improved location services and the ability to communicate via text messages and video calls. Why does every state feel they have to reinvent the wheel? It's one thing to upgrade your technology. It's another thing to learn from everybody else and see what works and what doesn't. It seems like these Democrat states love creating their own technology. Now, you bring in Microsoft people to do that? Fine, great, wonderful, fantastic. You bring in Amazon people to do that? Fine, great, wonderful, fantastic. I know the way nonprofits and government always work. Oh, Bobby's nephew. He knows computers. Have Bobby's nephew do it. The fiasco has drawn criticism from both sides of the aisle. Democratic State Senator Laura Richardson, who chairs a Senate Budget Subcommittee, rebuked Cal OES officials for the uncontrolled spending spree. Quote, when we set a budget, we need to work to it. We set a timeline. We need to work to it. We can't continue to expect the taxpayers to pay and pay and pay. Is this why Donald Trump shut down your light rail program, your fast high-speed rail train that was going nowhere? You guys spent billions of dollars on that one. It was a colossal failure. Well, that's what California does these days. It used to be known for innovation and industry. Now it's known for failure. Adding insult to injury, first responders are accusing Cal OES of mismanagement and lack of transparency. Quote, we just don't have faith in the process, nor have we been necessarily engaged in the process, said Jeff Meston, California Fire Chiefs Association Executive Director. The debacle reflects yet another one of Governor Newsom's unfulfilled promises in his first year as governor. He said the idea that it's 2019 and we are using analog systems designed decades ago is astounding. And we need to make investments to make sure technology aligns with the devices people are using in their daily lives. That's great, Gavin. But once again, you failed. What a colossal disaster of a governor this guy has been. Is there anything he has done that has gotten better? Well, more funding for the drug addicts. That's worked out. Homelessness has gone up. Drug addiction has gone up. Overdose deaths has gone up. The prices of homes have gone up. Property taxes have gone up. Well, there's really nothing that has gotten better in California under Gavin Newsom. It's only gone worse. He did to San Francisco. Now he's doing it there, and you know he's going to run for president. You know who else wants to run for president? AOC. Let me tell you the biggest scam in the world. AOC and other Democrats are on a PR campaign right now saying they're going to give turkeys to the homeless, turkeys to the needies for Thanksgiving. That's beautiful. That's wonderful. That's very, very nice. You know where all the donations are going through? Act Blue, the Democrat fundraising website. Why is it going through that? So now they have your information. You think you're giving the money to the turkeys. What cut is the Democrat Party taking of those turkeys? In addition to that, now they have your information. And when you think you're just donating, because you don't really check the website, you just go, well, they posted this and this is where they're giving the turkeys. Let's give some money to the homeless. Now they have all your donor information. And you just gave a donation to the Democrat Party. Very, very smart. Very, very savvy. Tell me again how AOC's not running for president. Of course she is. You're going to have Gavin Newsom. You're going to have AOC. All Pete Buttigieg. All the rock stars of the Democrat Party. Yep. Be careful, my friends. That's exactly what we got coming up. When we come next, my friends, Bob Ferguson has a new appointment to the Washington State Supreme Court. How bad is it? Little Googling would have told the mainstream media. We'll tell you who she is when we come back. You'll listen to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. A lot of people are reaching out asking our schedule for the week. Guys, we are on air tomorrow. So when you're driving wherever you're going for Thanksgiving, and if it's somebody who politically disagrees with you, you go, it's so nice to see you. I'm so happy to be here. I can't wait to talk because I was just listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on my way over here. Sure, that'll go over great with some liberal members of your family. That'll be excellent. So, Governor Bob Ferguson.
Yeah, it's not my name.
All right, Turd Ferguson.
So, Turd Ferguson appointed a new Supreme Court justice yesterday. Now, here's how it goes. When a justice retires early, they appoint them, but they're normally supposed to be elected. But this is the game they play, so they can get their people into office. So one of them is retiring. He wanted to replace her with another lefty. I went and found the most left-leaning news outlets report on this. I compared all of them. Mike sent me this one, and I compared it to Como's. I compared it to everybody else's, and I think everybody else's were fair because they covered everything. King 5, typical King 5. This one left out all the good stuff. Let me tell you how King 5 wrote this. Governor Bob Ferguson makes first Washington Supreme Court appointment. So, says here, Governor Bob Ferguson made his first appointment to the Washington Supreme Court on Monday. Civil rights attorney Colleen Melody will replace Justice Mary Yu, who is retiring on the state's highest court. In 2015, Ferguson created the Wing Luke Civil Rights Division while he was serving as Washington Attorney General. Melody, a career civil rights attorney, has led the division since its inception. Okay. Quote, Colleen Melody has devoted her career to standing up for those who often don't have a voice in our justice system. As Attorney General, I worked extremely close with Colleen, where I had a front row seat to her immense legal skills, prodigious work rate, and passion for justice. Her public service has made our state and nation a more equitable place. She will make an excellent justice. Melody, who is from Spokane, graduated first in her class from the University of Washington and University of Washington Law School. Prior to serving the Attorney General's office, she spent 4 years with the U.S. Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division, according to the governor's office. In a statement, she expressed gratitude to Ferguson and Yu for being examples of true public service. Okay, great. That's great. Is there anything real on this woman we need to know about? I had to go the Google machine for this one. I had to go searching for this one to find out. Took 2 searches. 2. And I got my answer. Why King 5 couldn't do this? Because they don't want to. So, she was in charge of the Wing Luke Civil Rights Division at Washington State Office for the Attorney General. Okay, fine. What did she do under this office? Well, she, under her leadership, the unit took on federal policy cases soon after the inauguration of Donald J. Trump, including challenges to the travel ban. Stop. The travel ban. You mean when President Trump in his first administration said that terrorists from Yemen, Iran, Iraq, Syria, all these hot spots couldn't come to the country because we had no way of vetting them? So do you remember who Bob Ferguson took on that lawsuit on behalf of, which means that this person, Justice Melody, took on that lawsuit? CARE, the Council for American Islamic Relations, whose brother, the Muslim Brotherhood, just got designated terrorist organization, who multiple members of Congress have called on President Trump to declare CARE a terrorist organization, who the Justice Department, under previous administrations, named as an unindicted co-conspirator in the largest terror financing trial case in U.S. history, the Holy Land Foundation. Those guys were funneling money to Hamas. So she led the unit for Ferguson to keep terrorists coming into the country. Oh, she also sued them to stop when they were trying to stop the DACA, the illegal immigrant protections. Great. This is fantastic. So now we know whose side she's on. It ain't yours. Terrorists and illegal aliens. She personally delivered oral arguments before the Washington State Supreme Court in a case involving homeless persons given a 3-day eviction notice and ordered out of their homes. Stop. What's wrong with that sentence right there? If they're homeless, they don't have a home. So let me translate this for you, because when you actually click on her accomplishments, and this is there, she didn't like that they were sweeping homeless people off the streets and offering them shelter and offering them housing and offering them treatment. So she sued to stop it. That's who this justice is. A far left radical appointed by Turd Ferguson.
Turd Ferguson, it's a funny name.
That's who she is. Why do you think the media left out all this? Why do you think the media is hiding all this? Because they want you to think, wow, what a nice and balanced pick this was. Isn't it a nice and measured pick? For all the people screaming about bias on the U.S. Supreme Court, never hear anybody talking about the Washington State Supreme Court. This is another seat filler for a radical agenda. If you don't think governor elections matter, now look at who gets to appoint the Washington State Supreme Court. You know what I'm really afraid of? We're going to get all these initiatives. We're going to get more signatures than ever before. They're going to go to the legislature. The legislature's going to say, no way. They get on the ballot. We pass these things. And then here comes the Washington State Supreme Court to shoot them down. Bang, 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 bang. You know what we need to do with these initiatives, my friends? The ones our friends at Let's Go Washington and the GOP are running. The one to keep men out of girls' sports. The one to make sure you have parental rights. The ones to have voter ID. You need to make sure they don't get 300,000 signatures. They don't get 400,000 signatures. They get 5, 6, 700, 800,000, 1 million signatures. That's what you need to make sure. Because you need them to know there are consequences and there are electoral consequences. Bob Ferguson appointed her to fill the rest of a term. But you do realize they come up for election. These judges come up for election. They are not scared of you right now electorally. You have to make sure that they are. And if you get these 3 initiatives on the ballot and you get them approved, they will be scared. They will be afraid of overturning these because they'll be afraid that they will all be overturned in the next election cycle. We don't pay enough attention to the judges. We need to pay more attention to the judges because look at all the messes they have caused. You could have $30 car tabs right now. No, you don't. You could have more Second Amendment rights. No, you don't. This is all stuff that was done by the Washington State Supreme Court. This is all stuff they did. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news headlines put a smile on your face heading into your evening commute. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And the best news of all, yes, we are live and in studio tomorrow. So wherever you are going for Thanksgiving, you can listen to the Ari Hoffman Show. And if you want to call and say you've got some relatives you want to mess with at the Thanksgiving table, I will give you some talking points that'll make their heads explode. But you should try and be nice and convincing. But yes, we will be live and in studio tomorrow, so you can call us, you can talk to us, and we'll have the latest and most insane stories for you. Now, yesterday we did the story about Home Alone 2. So I saw this story, which is another one. I think Mike sent this one over to me from Cairo 7, that the Plaza Hotel is having a Kevin McAllister look-alike contest. So you want to find a kid that looks like Macaulay Culkin at the age of what, 11, 10, however old he was in that movie? Home Alone 2 Lost in New York was partially filmed at the famed Big Apple icon, the Plaza Hotel. So Quivik Boutique is looking for the next Kevin to wander the lobby. Hey, maybe if Hillary Clinton had told Kevin McAllister where the lobby was, she would be president. But nope, Donald Trump did because he owned the hotel at the time. The boutique sells handcrafted knitwear, including copies of the tussle caps worn by Macaulay Culkin. Boutique president Fernando Alvarez said, the experience really brings you back to the movie The Adventure of the Family Experience, so this is a great opportunity to share all of that in this festive season. Kids 12 and under can visit the shop, try on one of the hats, and strike their best Kevin pose. The deadline is December 1st. 5 finalists will be chosen to take part in a ceremony in December at the hotel. Each will get a free hat. The grand prize winner will get the Plaza's Home Alone Fun in New York package after the holiday. Right, can't give out those rooms during the holiday. Blackouts and restrictions to apply, right? If you don't have someone who is spitting image of Kevin, you can still book the Home Alone Fun in New York package. According to the Plaza, visitors can live out their Kevin dreams by recreating some of their favorite iconic scenes, including a private 4-hour limo ride that takes you to filming locations, including a pizza, just like Kevin had. You finish off the day with a 16-scoop sundae. Rates depend on the type of room booked, and the experience is available year-round. Shouldn't you do it in the winter? Then you could go to the ice skating rink at Rockefeller Center, go to the ice skating rink at Wallman Rink, also owned by Trump, in Central Park. I'm sure you can find tons of homeless people who are the pigeon lady, probably not as friendly, but all you got to do is walk right across the street to Central Park. It's all right there. There was a girl in my school. Her mom was actually the party planner for the Plaza. She joked that she was Eloise. Do you guys know who Eloise is out here? Eloise? Okay, so I didn't know who the Weedle on the Needle was. I didn't know that existed because that's a local thing. Eloise is a little troublesome girl that gets into trouble in the Plaza in a kid's book. That's a New York thing. Like here, Mike, let me test your knowledge a little bit. You didn't know who Eloise is. That's fine. I didn't know who she was till this friend of mine even told me about it. I didn't know she existed. Have you ever heard of the Little Red Lighthouse and the Great Gray Bridge? You ever hear that book? That's another New York thing, like the Weedle on the Needle or any of these other things that are around here. So that's about the George Washington Bridge and the Little Red Lighthouse that's right underneath it. Anyway, this girl in my school, she had her Sweet 16 at the Plaza Hotel. That was a hell of a party. I had a great time at that one. And her grade's prom was at that hotel. I went to that one too. We had a great time. It was great, really great having the hookup back then. I do think that a lot of the Plaza Hotel actually isn't a hotel anymore. If I'm not mistaken, a lot of it actually got turned into condos because not that many people were booking the hotel as much as they used to. So I know it's still there. The Plaza Hotel's still there. I don't even think they have the horse and carriage rides across the street. I think they got rid of the horse and carriage stuff because, you know, doing that to horses is apparently cruel and unusual or whatever it is. But yeah, it's right there across from Central Park. Really great part of town, at least it used to be before de Blasio and now before Mamdani do whatever they do. Here's another story for you. This one's here from Mercer Island, Washington. According to King 5, was started as a simple idea and a single email has taken a Mercer Island High School sophomore Max Pelter further than he ever expected. He said, I just sent an email, and I mean it has taken me this far. Pelter wanted to create a weekly broadcast segment dedicated to his favorite hockey team. He says, I've always been a supermassive sports fan, and my interest just kind of skyrocketed after the Kraken came. Pelter's journey started long before he became a student at Mercer Island High School. As a 7th grader, he reached out to the school's broadcasting program asking if he could produce his own Kraken updates. 4 years later, he's now known around campus as Kraken Max. I said, can I just get a short little segment to talk about the Kraken so maybe people on Mercer Island, or maybe even beyond, are just a little bit more informed about the Kraken? Mercer Island High School broadcast media teacher Natalie Woods remembers the email. She says it's pretty unusual for us to have a middle schooler get in touch with us, but we're always open to anybody who wants to join. So we put our heads together and decided to put out the segment, and he just took it from there, really. Pelcher was quickly welcomed to the program by teachers and students who helped him get started. At the start, being in 7th grade, I didn't know much about it. When I kind of stepped into my first time, I was like, wow, this is kind of a little intimidating with all the buttons and how stuff works. Max, I still feel that way, my friend. I walk into Mike's side. I am afraid of everything over there. Mike has shown me like 10 times how to switch that board over for myself. I will not touch half that stuff. It looks like the bridge of the Enterprise over there.
That is why we don't let you touch any of the buttons.
When I touch buttons, bad things happen. Bad things happen. They said we taught him how to use the equipment, gave him some tips on better broadcasting skills along the way. He's just kind of taking it on himself. He's really blossomed. Quote, not only is it fun to kind of give everybody the lowdown on the Kraken, but it's also fun to just talk about your favorite team. I say that all the time. If we could run a sports show, that'd be fun. Kraken Max segments are 2 to 4 minutes long. Give the listener the current need to know about the team. He says, just kind of like a quick summary recap of the past week where the Kraken have been playing, if they've won, the goal scorers, and how they've been playing. Just enough to keep everybody listening and informed. I feel like it's a good middle ground for maybe the casual fan to be just a little bit more informed about their team. From 7th grade to sophomore year, there's been a lot of growth for the young broadcaster. Big strides, he said. That's the only thing I've been doing in 7th grade was this. And now I'm in the class, and now I'm doing all these assignments, and I'm sports broadcasting. It's definitely helped me hone my skills more while I'm here. He has big goals moving forward. I want to work in sports, probably more specifically something in sports media. Maybe a sports journalist or a sports broadcaster if I have a career in sports. I think that'll be a pretty successful job done. Tell you what, Max, I know a few people in the sports broadcasting world, and if anybody who knows Max is listening to the show right now, we'd love to have you in studio, let you talk about the Kraken a time or two, and I'll put you in touch with a few people I know in sports media around here. Drop me an email, ari@kvi.com. That's ari@kvi.com. Well, my friends, that's going to wrap it up for us today. But remember, we are live tomorrow. We are live tomorrow from 3 to 6 p.m., so you can listen to us in your travels for Thanksgiving. We'll be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and, of course, more good news headlines. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.